What's up YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Homebrew Subaru. In this episode I am going to clean up the seats and install them. What's up everyone? So like I said, in this episode I'm going to clean up the seats as best as I can and pretty much install them into the car. I don't know what they're going to sit like in the car height wise, so that's something I've got to really see. I know they are going to sit lower and that might be beneficial to me. The bottom rails were quite rusty, as you can see in this photo. So I took them right down to metal with the wire wheel and then gave them a few shots of primer, make sure I'd have good paint adhesion, and then a few coats of gloss black. Has kind of brought them back to the way they were. They got so rusty because of the floor in my old car. It had started to rust quite bad, and that rust just finally creeped up onto the legs of the chairs. So these are out of a STi version 4. I actually have a picture of the car because I kind of grabbed it off the internet while I was in the auction before my buddy bought the car, and then I ended up getting the seats from him like a year after that. And I've had them for like 6 years now, almost 7 years. 7 years. So I've got my use out of them already, but you know, because I don't do a heavy amount of driving and I've got so many vehicles to drive, I mean I was driving the Audi for quite some time, that these have stayed in relatively good condition, especially because this was the driver's seat in the JDM car and this has been the driver's seat of my car, so it doesn't have actually a lot of seat time in it, but it still has some, you know, wear to it, I guess. A lot of the color has come out of the red inserts at the top, and this little in kind of stitched in piece here, the colors come right out of it, and some of the stitches have actually worn out, whether they're stitches or not, or I'm not quite sure. But it's like a Alcantara type of fabric, and it's taken a lot of wear in the actual bottom of the seat. Nothing I'm going to do about, but I'm just going to use some upholstery cleaner that I have to clean them up. So I've got to vacuum first, hit them with the upholstery cleaner to clean them, and then I've got an idea to kind of brighten up the red in them a little bit, and then at that point I can almost kind of call them finished and then prepare to install them into the car. So I won't be installing them into the car today because I guess even after the shampoo I'm probably going to want to let them sit overnight and dry out, and because I've got the car out of the garage I've got plenty of space in here to work, so it's just ideal. So I'm going to start by vacuuming and then I'll work on to the upholstery cleaner, kind of keep you guys updated as I go, and we'll see what happens. So I've got the seats lightly vacuumed. They weren't very dirty, just dusty, because the door seals on the old car leaked a lot and a lot of dust built up in the car. So I've got them all vacuumed front and back. I'm ready to hit them with this upholstery cleaner. I've used a product like this before. I'm not necessarily going to put any, well, I might lightly spray the center, but I know it doesn't really affect the material. It's just I don't want it sinking in there and having forever to dry it out. The other fabric is quite porous, and the air is going to draw through it, so when I go to do a vacuum a lot of the moisture will come out. So yeah, you basically just spray this stuff from like 12 inches away, let it kind of soak for a second, and then use a sweeping motion with a sponge or upholstery brush. I'm going to probably use this guy a little bit in some of the bad spots. Down along the side of the seats there's a little bit of like coffee stainage or whatever it is, I'm not quite sure, but I got to get some of that. And then I'll just use like the blue towels to kind of sop up a lot of the rest of it and take off all the surface stuff. And then hit them with a vacuum a second time. Okay, so I've got both seats reasonably cleaned up. The shampoo really lifts a lot of that grime that sits in the fabric that the vacuum can't just actually vacuum out. So it kind of breaks down the oils that are in the fabric and lifts them. And you can see how much actually comes out on the shop towel when you start wiping them down. So I just took the brush and went over the more coarse fabric, really blackened it up a lot, and then just the towel over these softer spots, just so they don't get scored and scratched, because the material does damage quite easily. So now before we put them into the car, these red inserts are no longer red. They're like sun bleached, so this would be the right hand side. The sun's come in and bleached a lot of the red right out of the fabric, and what I'd like to make them a little bit red, a little bit more like this one is. So I've already done this seat. I am going to show you guys how to do it. It's not something that's for the weak at heart, and I wouldn't recommend doing it to certain seats and certain types of fabric, but literally I taped this off and hit it with the good old Duplicolor. So I am going to show you how that's done on this one, and you guys can get a better idea of how to actually bring that red right back. So moving right along, I decided I would just tape off the chair, no need to film it. It is a lot of small pieces because each of these lines is not actually straight, it's quite curved. So you need to get a couple small pieces to keep the curvature. The fabric doesn't allow the tape to stick well as well. It's something you kind of need to lay on there really slow and just kind of place it, and hopefully it does stay. Because of the seam, the stitched seam between the two colors, it allows you to kind of sink the tape in a little bit. And of course you're painting your seat and the rest of it is black. You want to try and tape this off as best as you can. Ideally like a plastic, just a cheap plastic seat cover laid over top, and then rip two holes and then just kind of taped open the holes. Would have worked a lot better. Unfortunately I don't have any, so this is what I did. But when you're spraying, you kind of want to give this direct hits, and you want to apply the paint directly to the fabric area. You don't want to gather it up on the tape, because it will start to puddle, or not puddle, but drip on the tape, and you don't want that sinking in behind the tape and getting on the black. Minding that, because of the tape being on fabric, you're going to have some overspray. So you want to have some brake clean with a clean rag, just so that when you remove all the tape, you can go around some of those edges to clean some of the overspray off. There won't be very much if you do this properly. When spraying, you actually want to try and spray against the tape and not with the tape, because the chances of the paint going in behind the tape will increase. And if you just give it those direct hits and try and stay off the tape, just try and stay in the painted area, you're going to see this thing change color like that. You can see there's a lot of fading over on this side, and a little bit of staining over on the other side. Make sure you got a good shot. Be liberal with it. Direct hits. And once it looks fairly even, you can see that it's starting to drip. So we need to work quickly, don't want to waste too much time here. And that's it. Now once you get to that point, you want to get rid of all this tape. You don't want any more of the dripping happening. You can see some of it happening in behind here. So literally just pull it all off. And the next thing you want to have your rag ready with some brake clean, because you can see a little tiny bit of overspray right here. And as long as you get to these areas relatively quick, the paint will just lift right off. I mean, you notice the little, just a surface glaze back here. That's it. Now, is it by any means perfect? No. But is it a huge improvement from what it was? Yeah. I mean, cleaning up all the black parts to the point that they really pop out black again, and then restaining those, basically restaining the fabric red. The contrast looks really good, and in the car they're going to look awesome. So I mean, basically that's it. I've got them all completely cleaned up. The bottom rails are painted, the inserts are repainted, and I'm just going to let them basically sit overnight, and tomorrow I will plan on popping them into the car, because it's just basically 4 bolts for either side, and the seats will swap in, and get a first sit in them and see what they actually feel like in the car. So you guys don't really have to wait for that, because that's going to happen pretty much right about now. So it's not actually tomorrow, it's 2 days later. Yesterday was a little bit drizzly and a little cool. Today it's absolutely beautiful out here. I can't even believe the weather right now. So I'm ready to pull the seats out of the RS and get ready to install the STi seats. I'm just going to kind of set up the camera and show you where the bolts are. We're going to also have to swap the seatbelt buckles from the GD seats to these older GC seats, because the belt buckle actually bolts to the chair, and it'll need to be changed for sure. It may actually need a little trimming just to make it fit properly, but I can't remember. I've done this before, but I'll have to wait until I get there. So I'm going to set up the camera, whip out those seats, and then we'll get test fitting the new ones. So as you can see, these seat rails are literally the same condition, or starting to turn the same, and I don't know if I'm going to have to clean up underneath, but it's just basically these two 14 mils. There's two 14 mils in the back, and the whole seat will come out. There is no electrical connections on the seat. I was thinking there might be seatbelt pre-tensioner switches, but it doesn't appear that they are, so just those 4 bolts and I'll have these guys out. Now, these buckles may very well be the same, but I'm going to use the new ones on the old seats. Just makes sense. I could actually try that afterwards, but I've already kind of loosened this one up. It is just a 14 mil bolt. and the bolt stays. I mean, it does have like a lock washer on there, a little retaining clip to hold everything together, so you can use the bolt if you need to, but they are the same. So I'm just going to give this guy a little wipe down and cleaning, and then just go and retighten the GD belt onto the GC seat. Make sure it's good and tight. And this chair is ready to go into the car. So as you can see, I got the passenger seat installed. I didn't realize, but the rear holes actually need to be opened up a little bit. So I'm going to show you on the other seat where I do it. The seat looks great in there. I ended up taking the bolts and cleaning the heads and respraying them. So I'll have to do the same with these ones. But even you can see on this seat, it does have a tear in it, and the cushioning is quite worn out here. And I know the STi seat's going to be a way better replacement than what I've been using. So on the seat at the rear, we need to take this hole and actually open it up to the back a little bit to just give it a little bit more, elongate this hole just a little bit more. And then over on this other one, which is actually going to be a little bit hard to see. Yeah, get this light turned on here. This hole, we want to actually take and try and Dremel out or carbide bit a little bit out of the bottom section here to elongate that hole as well. And then the bolts will line up. The fronts will line up with what's in the car, and just doing that little bit of modification to the back, the seat will bolt in place. Okay, so I'm going to whip out the old seat, whip in the new, and we'll check to see what the results are. So it might be a little bit difficult to see off the reflection of the windshield, but both seats are installed. They fit absolutely perfect, which is to be expected. And sitting in the car, obviously you sit a little bit lower, and if you're a tall person, you're going to get a lot more headroom. Still enough leg room that I can actually still move the seat back. These are kind of perfect for these cars. It's too bad that the older seat fits the newer car better than the newer seat does, in my opinion. Because this is actually how I'd like to sit in the car, a little bit lower to the door sill. And these are awesome. I'm so glad that they are in the car finally. So they do look a little bit better. Seeing them out in the sunlight, I mean, yeah, they're still 23-year-old seats, but they're actually a little bit cleaner than what was in here, and I'm just glad I finally got them in. So if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here and you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button for me. Leave your questions and comments further down below, and I'll see you in the next one.